Hello darlings, in this video I'm going to show you a step-by-step process of making Simplicity's 8447 pattern for 1940s trousers. The first thing I like to do is take my measurements and figure out what size I'm going to choose on the pattern. Lots of different patterns have different varying sizes, so it's always good to double check with your measurements. Now once we've done that, we can cut out the pattern. I like to cut out the pattern in the largest size that they give you, and then you can fold under to your exact size. This means that this gives you leeway and you can make the pattern for friends and family without restricting it to only being your size. Once you have folded your material in half lengthways, make sure to smooth it out completely before cutting out any of your pattern pieces. As I mentioned before, just fold along your size line and then you can reuse the pattern as many times as you want for multiple sizes. Be mindful after folding the pattern, you get a lot of ink on your hands, so make sure you wash your hands before moving on to touching the fabric. And go ahead and pin everything down. So I have the pants pinned down and I'm just going to cut these out for the moment, but I'll move on to these later. I only need to cut one of those. So I'm going to focus on these because I've got to cut two of both, and then I'll open up the fabric and cut the rest out with the leftover fabric. I've chosen to use pinking shears as this prevents the fabric from fraying. Pinking shears only work on finely woven fabric. If you have a loose weave, it's not going to prevent it from fraying, so just keep that in mind. With the little notches, I'm cutting that out with just my little pair of scissors. Make sure to mark out all of your darts with tailor's chalk and any notches on the fabric. And make sure to number your pieces as well. So here I've got my pant pieces and then the little extra bits, the facing and the pocket, and yeah, all the interfacing as well. Hey guys, it's the next day, and I'm going to attach the pant pieces together now. So before I attach the pants together, I'm going to stay stitch along the top. This will give it a nice clean top. Once the belt and everything's on, there won't be any little buckles or bubbles in the fabric. It's going to sit nice and flat. And you're not going to backstitch with this stay stitching either. Where you've marked your dart, pinch the fabric up and pin that in place. Guys, a little sewing tip that they often give you in these vintage patterns is once you double stitch at the top, you go all the way down to the very end, and don't double stitch this, just sew straight off and then tie this up at the end. And this will prevent any bubbles and weird looking stuff on the outside of your pants. And then we're going to press our darts all facing to the center of our pants. This is my first time working with gabardine material, and I'm finding it so hard to put the pins through 2 layers of fabric. Let me know if anyone's worked with gabardine. Yeah, is it really, it's really hard to work with. I mean, it's easy to sew, but it's just really hard to pin. I feel like I'm breaking the fabric trying to stab the pin through. I sewed the right side to the wrong side of the pocket and right around with a little seam allowance turned up here, and then I clipped the seams on the side, and now you just turn this the right side out and push in the corners, and then I'm going to sew this down along here, and then I can turn these edges to the inside, and then that's going to go on the back of the pants. And so I'm going to go ahead and sew that on. Alright, now we have our cute little pocket. The sides have been tucked under. This has been top stitched. And so now we can attach it to the pants. Don't forget to mark the spot on the pants where the pocket is going to go. Now I'm just going right ahead and top stitching the pocket onto the front of the pants. Another little handy tip that Simplicity gives you is to sew a little arrow at the very top of the pocket, and that's going to secure that pocket so that when you put your hand in it, it's not going to rip off. Now with the pants laying flat, you're going to sew down the inner leg seam with the pants facing right sides together. And you're going to have the front leg to the back leg. Sometimes at this point in the sewing process, pants can be a little bit confusing. It's like, what way does this actually go? I can't see it. So I'm laying it out for you. This is the way that it goes once you flip them around, and that's the crotch seam that goes together. I turned them inside out and I sewed along the crotch line at the top. So this is connecting up our crotch seam, and you'll see this when I turn this the right way around. Now I'm just going ahead and sewing down the outer side of the leg and also on the left side as well, but we're leaving a bit open at the top for the placket where the buttons go. With the pants so far, I've pretty much put the base of the pants together, so now I need to do the waistband, the side placket, and the hem on the bottom. Now a very important part of dressmaking is to make sure that you press the seams as you go. That's gonna leave you with a really nice finish on the final product. If you don't press your seams, the seams on the outside of your garment just aren't gonna look like a garment that you could buy from the shops. So always press your seams. Now that we've ironed the facing onto the little placket that is going to go onto the left side of the pants, we're just going to pin that down here and sew that over, and then this is going to then turn around and be a neat little placket on the inside. So I'll sew that in and show you how it looks. Alright, now that I have attached the placket, we're going to turn this over here, and we're going to understitch on the top here, right close to the edge, all the way down, and that's going to go through over onto the little raw edge over here, and that's just going to stop it from curling around. So, and then once we've done that, it will then be folded completely over, and then we will slip stitch this into place. At this point, I was pretty happy with myself. I did a great job at slip stitching. You can barely notice it's there. Moving on to the waistband, I'm pinning that right side to the right side of the fabric, and I've already pressed up the lower edge that we're going to fold over. Now I'm just going ahead and sewing the waistband on. Once you have done that, you should have a little bit of extra of the waistband that you're going to sew down matching up with the seam line, and you're going to fold that over, and then that is your belt. Guys, I just thought I would show you for comparison my short leg versus the pattern's length. And now I'm just finishing off hand sewing the cuffs. I also learned a new technique called a French tack while doing this project, and that keeps the cuffs up. As you can see here, I've already marked out the width of the buttons, and you want to do a couple of test runs to make sure that your buttonholes are the perfect width to put your button through. So here I'm just going ahead and sewing my buttonholes, and I'll show you a little step-by-step process. So make sure you change your machine to the buttonhole section, and then on this style we're going to choose number 1, and that's going to be the base, and then we're going to change over to number 2, and that's going to go up the side, and then we're going to go back to the first one and go over at the top, and then to the 4th step and go back down along the long side. This is just a little up close so you can see what's happening. And now you should have perfect looking buttonholes. And then you're just going to seam rip those open, and using your handy dandy tailor's chalk, you're going to draw straight through that buttonhole onto the placket on the back side of the pants. The little markings is where you're going to sew your buttons onto. I actually decided to flip my buttons over because I thought they looked a lot more classy having a smooth side rather than a tacky indentation kind of look. Here I'm just sewing the last button onto the pants. Are you ready to be taken back to 1940? guys so much for watching. If you have any sewing related questions, just put them down in the comments and I'll be happy to help. Bye!